Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to EduSat Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in immunology we will be talking about cytokines. To discuss this topic we have with us our subject expert Dr. Anita Kamra Verma. Dr. Verma is Associate Professor in Department of Zoology in Kirorimal College, University of Delhi. Without further ado, I would like to welcome ma'am to our studios and request her to start the lecture. Welcome ma'am.
Thank you, Amrit. Good afternoon, everybody. In continuation with our immunology lectures, today I am going to speak on cytokines. So let us just go through just revise a little bit. If you remember, what is WBC? We have done it in our blood. That WBCs are those leukocytes which are responsible for creating immunity in the system. If I look at the breakup, we have lymphocytes which are 10 to 15%, we have granulocytes which are 35 to 80%, and we have monocytes which make up 0 to 15%. Now, why do we need to talk about leukocytes? Why do I need to talk about white blood cells? And where am I going from here? If I think what regulates them, how they function, how are they secreting, and how are they getting produced, then I always have to think of cytokines, growth factors, or chemokines. So what exactly are cytokines? Cytokines are low molecular weight proteins, around 25 to 30 kilodaltons. They are capable of binding receptors, leading to gene expressions and alteration in gene expressions. They can bind to neighboring cells, they can bind to themselves, they can bind the secretions of theirs to themselves. That is called as autocrine. A few of them can have an action far away from the cells where they are the cells which are secreting them. They also have very low receptors. That means all these cytokines are capable of making a good immune response. When I say a good immune response, what do I mean? That there is a cell which is secreting something, and that secretion has the ability to affect the cell itself. So then that means I am thinking that a cytokine producing cell will bind to a receptor which will show a gene activation, and this can either be upregulated or downregulated. Now, what I just mentioned, that a cytokine secreting cell, when it has the ability to act on its own cell, it is called as autocrine. This can be a result of a virus infection, or it can be paracrine. Paracrine, when it is the secretion can affect the neighboring cells. That means the neighboring cells has the receptor for the cytokines which are going to be secreted here. We can see them in T cells because T cell help the B cells to understand the secretions of the T cell. Similarly, we already know what are endocrine glands, but these are endocrine secretions. Endocrine means ductless. That means the secretion is in one place, and the impact or the receptor which can be understood, or the cell which has the receptor which can be impacted, is far away or distant from the place of secretion. So that means I have to now think about cytokine actions. When I say actions, I talk about a cellular response or a humoral response. If you go back to your earlier lessons, you may remember that humoral means the soluble, that means the antibodies that are being secreted by the B cells, and cellular means the T cell response. So that means cytokines have an impact on both immune responses, which are T cell mediated as well as B cell mediated. That means it can also have an action on inflammation. It can regulate hematopoiesis. It can also have a control on proliferation. What is proliferation? It just means increase in the number of cells. That means cell division and maturation and differentiation. That means it can also have an impact on wound healing and chemotaxis. Chemotaxis means just a movement towards a chemical stimuli. That means I have cytokines which have number of actions. So obviously I will have to have cytokines which can be classified under certain categories. Now my classification would fall under interleukins, interferons, tumor necrosis factor, and many other cytokines or chemokines. It is important to understand that interleukins have been numbered 1 to 35. That means they have small subspecies differentiations, but they can be identified or they have been nomenclatured under 1 to 35. Similarly, we have interferons which are alpha, beta or gamma. Then we have tumor necrosis factor which is alpha and beta. It is important that you note down these. Then there are colony stimulating factors. There are other factors like TGF beta. TGF beta are the ones which are inhibitory in function. Then we have chemokines of CXE, CC, C, CX3C. These are all classifications which we will undertake when we do chemokines. So what are the main functions of cytokines? We have enumerated a number of functions. The main functions which I follow now is that it is hematopoiesis. Hematopoiesis means there should be colony stimulating factors because they have to give proliferate a number of blood cells. We already know that the blood cells are of different types. Then we have inflammatory reactions, that is we have interleukin 1 and TNF alpha which takes the lead in this. Chemotaxis, IL-8 that is interleukin 8 or MIP. MIP is macrophage inflammatory protein 1 and BLC, B lymphocyte chemoattractant. That means this attractant again means it is for chemotaxis. For that means if I have an immune response, my immune response can either enhance the secretion of a cytokine or it can suppress the secretion, or that means or reduce the secretion. So in case of stimulation, immunostimulation, I have interleukin 12 which has a major role to play and interferon gamma which has a major role. But for immune suppression, IL-10 is the cytokine which is secreted. So that means if in my blood circulation I find IL-10, that means my body is under immune suppression. Angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is a word which just shows induction of new blood vessels. That means formation of new blood vessels are happening in the body in case of cancer. So that means if I have vascular endothelial growth factors enhanced in the blood, that means there is some place in the system where there is cancer developing or the cancer is at a stage where the angiogenesis is occurring. Or this can be in the embryonic stage. That means when a child has to be born, then new blood vessels are always being formed. So this is again an important factor to know whether there is angiogenetic marker present in the system or not. That is why embryogenesis also will have certain lymphotoxins or TGF beta which is enhanced. So what are the functions of cytokines? When I say functions of cytokines, that means they can mediate cell-to-cell communication. When I say cell-to-cell communication, that means this communication has to occur with the macrophages, B cells, dendritic cells. Please go back to my earlier lectures and you will remember these are nothing but antigen presenting cells. So that means presenting the antigen through the MHC molecule is one form of communication which we have understood. Then we have T lymphocytes which are cytotoxic. That means if the T cell has been stimulated and this T cell decides to inform the other cells that it has to be killed. So that means CTLs will be activated which are the cytotoxic T lymphocytes which are going to kill. Similarly, the cytokines can have functions in many ways. These are the most simplistic functions which I have explained. Let us go slightly in detail and understand that if a cytokine can have impact on more than one number of cells, that means I have activated a T cell which can further activate a B cell, a thymocyte or a mast cell, then I call it a pleiotropic action. Pleiotropic simply means that one cytokine has an impact on different cells. Now it can have a different impact, most likely that all 3 types or 4 types of cells which are the target cells will show a stimulation. That means interleukin 4 which is being secreted here is showing activation, proliferation and differentiation in B cell. But in thymocyte it is showing only proliferation. In mast cells also it is showing only proliferation. That means differentiation or maturation will not occur in presence of cytokine IL-4. The other function which the cytokine can have, that it has a redundant effect. That means different cytokines are having the same effect on one cell. That means here if I go by the example, I am seeing that IL-2, IL-4, IL-5 all are going to act on the same B cell. So this is redundant. The same thing which IL-4 can do, I do not need IL-2 and IL-5 to do. But in this redundancy also, sometimes we see two things. Either the secretion of one cytokine enhances the secretion of other kinds. That means two individual cytokines having individual effect on the same cell, but when they are used together or when they are targeted together to the cell, they show enhanced impact as compared to the jointly the two of them. This is called synergism or synergistic effect. So that means synergistic effect is always additive in nature. And if I have a cytokine which two cytokines have reverse effects or opposite effects on the same cell, this becomes reductive. This is called as antagonism. That means one cytokine antagonizes the impact of the earlier cytokine. Now, there can be a third or fifth effect which is called as the cascade effect. Cascade effect means one cytokine stimulates one cell and this further stimulates another cell. So that means the cell is getting stimulated by one cytokine. T helper cell is getting activated, which secretes interferon gamma further secretes the macrophages, the macrophage further secretes interleukin 12, which further activates the activated T helper cell. That means I have an activation of T helper cell through the B cell and T cell and the antibody combination. Then it gives out interferon gamma, it further gives out interleukin 12, and this together then secretes interferon gamma, TNF alpha and IL-2 on maybe, so depending on the infection, some other cytokines. So this would be termed as cascade effect. That means if I am looking at cytokines, I am also looking at the target cell which has receptors. So does the cytokine secretion just go and bind to the receptor? No. Cytokines are rather smart in the system. They can influence the expression of the cytokine receptors also. This is again a very interesting phenomena because secretion of one cytokine, when it has a positive effect on the target cell, it can upregulate the receptors. Upregulation means more and more receptors are exposed so that even a small amount of cytokine which is present in the system is able to bind to the receptor. Similarly, I can have one cytokine which can have a down regulation of the receptors if it is an immune suppressant or it has a negative impact. That means TGF beta, that is going to have a reductive effect. That means a down regulation of the receptor. This is generally considered to be an immune suppressant. But if I have an IL-2 receptor, I can always see an upregulation with IL-4 or IL-5. IL-5, that is just a short form of interleukin 5. That means, does cytokine stop playing their role here? No. They have had an impact on many things. Similarly, they can have an impact on innate immunity and adaptive immunity through regulating the hematopoiesis. That means, what is hematopoiesis? Hemato means blood, poiesis means formation. So that means formation of new blood vessels is also important for controlling the innate immunity and adaptive immunity. So where is the cytokine going to impact? Where does the blood cells form? The blood cells are formed in the bone marrow. So when it is formed in the bone marrow, that means there should have cytokine should have an impact on the bone marrow itself. So here what am I showing? That I have interleukin 1 which is going to have an impact on the endothelial cell, stromal cell. So that means I have a precursor to a bone marrow cell, that means a precursor which is a stem cell. this stem cell is going to get impacted by CSF, IL-1, IL-6, GM-CSF. This is nothing but colony stimulating factor, and it is going to develop into a stromal cell, and this stromal cell can further get activated by interleukin 1 and get converted into a fibroblast or an endothelial cells. This shows a direct regulation of hematopoiesis, which is going to further connect and regulate the innate immunity or the acquired or the adaptive immunity. So, when I look at it, I am going to classify the cytokines under cytokine 1 and cytokine 2. So, what are the general properties of cytokine 1? All what I have just explained: pleiotropism, redundancy, synergy, and antagonism. And here what do I see? That if I have pleiotropism, I can have IgE production. IgE is again a subclass of immunoglobulin. I have Th2, that is T helper cell 2, type 2 differentiation, and I can have an inhibition. Please remember, I told you it can have all the 3 cells getting activated, or it can have different impacts. Here it is showing an activation and differentiation of 2 kinds of cells, and on the macrophages it can show inhibition too. When I say redundancy, again, because all 3 are showing only a proliferation effect, so unless and until it is synergistic, it is not going to be helpful. So, it is always put under redundancy. Synergy, like I said, interferon gamma, and it can have the same impact as TNF alpha, because both of them together show an enhanced expression of MHC class 1 molecules on many cell types, because I have said class 1 is expressed on all nucleated cell. So, the entire body can fight the infection. So, that is, if I have a viral infection, my body generally secretes interferon gamma. So, if the virus impact is on any cell of the body, all the cells of the body can release interferon gamma, and interferon gamma has this impact of an autocrine function. That means it can save its own self with the same secretion. So, interferon gamma is given out, it binds to its own receptors, and the cell is informed that there is a viral infection. It can also have a paracrine impact, and it tells the neighboring cells that there is virus infection, save your cells. And that is how it puts the entire body into an antiviral state, and the cell which has got infected dies. Similarly, we have antagonism, which I have already explained. So, what do I say when I say there is a type 2 cytokine also? When I say what are the properties of these cytokine 2, the properties of these cytokines are that these are not stored. The half-life is very small, and these have local impacts or systemic effects. That means one can stimulate the secretion of another. Now, these are similar to the other cytokines which are type 1, but they are highly specific in nature, and type 2 are non-specific in nature. But can they alter the gene expression? Yes, they can alter the gene expression also, except in some chemokines. So, what have I understood? That cytokines have multifarious effects depending on the target cell, depending on the state of differentiation, activation of the target cell, and depending on the presence or absence of other cytokines. So, that means I must worry about the cytokine secreting cells or the cytokine generating cells. So, we did mention about the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. So, what is innate immunity? It is caused by the macrophages, the endothelial cells, and fibroblasts. And adaptive immunity is more cell mediated. So, T lymphocytes are responsible, macrophages, and natural killer cell, because as opposed to innate immunity, which is going to just give you a humoral immunity, we also need cells which are going to kill. So, natural killer cells become important in case of T cells, in case of adaptive immunity. So, now I am going to apprise you of the structural classification. That means we have cytokines, I have told you about the functions, I have told you about the properties, but is there a structural difference? Yes. Structurally, I can classify them under 5 categories. The first being the immunoglobulin family. If you people have done immunoglobulin before, then you may realize that there is IgG, IgE, IgM, IgD and IgE. So these are the 5 subclasses, but IgG is generally what we understand as the immunoglobulin. It has a structure which is similar to the immunoglobulin family. Then it has a structure which is similar to the hematopoietin family, interferon family, the chemokine family. Chemokines are generally for migration or the migratory cells, and it has a tumor necrosis factor family. So the hematopoietin family has an alpha helical structure. It is more prevalent. It has little or negligible beta sheet, and interleukins generally fall under these categories. So that means there are amino acids which the structures of the amino acids or the number of amino acids vary considerably. Then we have the interleukin families. The interleukin family has a complex network of pro-inflammatory cytokines. So when I say pro-inflammatory cytokines, that means they are responding to inflammation. They are causing inflammation. If this is found to be enhanced in the blood, that means there is injury somewhere in the body. And they do not cause apoptosis. If they do not cause apoptosis, that means body will not go into a septic shock, even if there is lot of infection. So that means interleukin 1 and interleukin 4 or till interleukin alpha and beta are both responsible for having similar functions. So when I talk of so much, there is something which you must understand holistically. So this cartoon actually gives you an idea that when there is a microbial infection, the cell can be activated, the macrophage can go and eat it, engulf it, or it can secrete interleukin 12. There can be recognition by the antigen presenting cell, and if we remember, the antigen presenting cells are the dendritic cells. They can secrete CD40, CD40L, or once the interleukin has been secreted, the cytokine will go and activate the naive cell T cell, and then the T cell will recruit the T helper cell. The T helper cell is going to secrete interferon gamma, which shows that there is stimulation of some kind. That means the body has to inform the other cells that there is an infection, rise, go and fight. Interleukin 12 is capable of activating natural killer cells independently too. That means natural killer cells will also secrete interferon gamma. IL-12 can activate the T cell, which is the TC cell, that is through the CD8 receptors. This will also give out interferon gamma. So when there is a lot of interferon gamma, I don't have to worry about which microbe has affected. We know it is a viral infection. So this is showing that through various ways, through the cell, through the cytokine, through the dendritic cells, altogether it has shown sufficient cytokine secretion to inform the whole body that it has been infected. Like I said, this is not going to lead to apoptosis, or it is not going to lead to death. Interleukin 12 can basically activate the T cell or the cytotoxic T cell and the natural killer cell to further activate the macrophages. This is going to show an increased endocytic activity. That means first the macrophages have been asked to secrete cytokines. Next, the macrophages can either be asked to go and engulf and eat it. So the moment they are engulfing the microbes, that is when the lysis occurs and the cell dies, as well as the infected cell dies. The infected cell can also die by too much burden of the virus on this infected cell itself too. So that means, what have I understood? That the macrophages, the T helper cells, all are most important for understanding the infection. So the cells which are going to be primarily impacted by for the secretion of cytokines after an infection would be macrophages and T helper cells. NK cells and TC cells are secondary. So that means, can I say very conveniently that innate, adaptive, hematopoiesis as well as inflammation are directly the function of cytokines? Yes, but the complete list we can find it attached, which is towards the end. So when I talk of inflammation, what do I understand? That inflammation is nothing but an collection of pus. If you remember, if you have seen and studied initially, there are 3-4 types, what we call as the cardinal signs of inflammation, where you have tumor, that means it becomes big and it appears like a tumor. Rubor, that means it becomes red in color. Calor, because there is heat, and dolor, because it has pain. So that means these are the 4 cardinal signs of an inflammatory response. So when I talk of inflammation, there would be 4 or 5 stages where it recognizes what is an infection. That means it has to recognize the damage. How has the inflammation occurred? Have you got a wound from outside, or have you got just some secretions in the system which are going to tell you that there is an increase in vascular damage? There could be a blood damage, or there could just be an injury. That means there is a damage from within the body or a damage from external sources. In either cases, what happens is that there is a signal which is given to the cells. This signal that means my blood vessel will either become dilated, or my blood vessel will show movement of the cells towards the endothelium or towards the edges of the blood vessel, from where it moves out. That means I have cytokines which are being produced, which are going to allow the blood vessel to vasodilate. Once the blood vessel vasodilates, then the cells will move out of the blood vessel. When it moves out of the blood vessels, then it can go into the neighboring tissues, and based on the chemicals which are secreted, it will move towards the place of damage. And the pus which we normally see in an inflamed site, it is because of the accumulation of the dead cells and the lipids which have been accumulated of the dead cells. So that means, does this occur in blood vessels which are clotting? Yes. If the blood vessels are damaged, then also there will be a similar inflammatory response, and the blood will clot, the blood will retract, and the inflamed part will get sealed. So that means, what do I understand? I either have to deliver the effector cell to the place of damage, or I have to construct a barrier, or I have to I have to repair the damage which has been caused, because I have to maintain the homeostasis. Hematopoiesis is different. Homeostasis is the equilibrium that before injury what the body was, I have to get the body back to the same system. So what have I understood? The same cartoon extends, that I have inflammation, cytokines, and it will allow increase the macrophages to give out TNF alpha, IL-1, IL-12, and that will lead to further macrophage activation. So the cytokine levels in serum would differ like this. TNF alpha, initial stage of inflammation. IL-1, later stage of inflammation. IL-12, repair. Interferon gamma, complete damage, infection. How does it impact innate and adaptive immunity? Similarly, I have the microbes, I get the IL-12 secretion in the serum. I have adaptive immunity when the total gamut of T cells are being activated. That means, in my wound infection, what do? I have an innate immunity leading to adaptive immunity. What is innate immunity? What we are born with. That means I have infection which is coming, and this is adhering to the epithelium. This is going on damaging the epithelium. So I have to protect myself against the infection. So my local tissues are corrected and it goes back. So what happens to the adaptive immunity? The adaptive immunity will come on further. That means my infection gets cleared in the system because of the secretion of T cells. So this is a cartoon which has explained the same thing. And do we have other innate immunity cytokines? Yes, we have IL-10, IL-12, we have MHC, which are going to cause the class 2 molecules which are going to cause immunosuppression, and it can also stimulate NK cells. I can have T and B growth factors, that is for adaptive immunity, for the acute phase proteins. These are the adaptive immunity cytokines. tumor necrosis factor, and non-specificity of cytokines because they are going to work only through receptors, and the receptors are expressed on all antigen activated cells through close proximity to cytokine secreting cells, that is antigen presenting cells, T helper, as well as locally through the T cells. That means cytokines have a short life and they are secreted in small quantities. For that we have to ensure complete activity. So my next part is going to be concentrated on cytokine receptors. Thank you. Welcome back. Good evening. We are going to now continue with cytokines part 2, and where I want to revise with you all once more what are the cytokines that you need to know: IL-2, IL-4, IL-6, IL-10, IL-12. These are all big and small families of interleukins which are responsible in innate as well as adaptive immunity. So if I categorize, then I can put IL-2 and IL-4 in adaptive immunity. IL-6 has more impact on innate immunity than adaptive. IL-10 has an equal impact on innate and adaptive immunity, but interferon gamma has an impact on both, but interferon alpha, which is a very large family of cytokines, which has impact only on innate immunity. So be very wary. If we have interferon alpha, we are very sure that there are no T cells involved in that. It is only an innate immune response that it is responsible for. Similarly, IL-1. So that means if there are cytokines, interferon alpha and IL-1 enhanced in a person, we are sure that there is an innate immune response which is functioning and T cells are not involved. But IL-18 has impact on both. So these are the cytokines and some chemokines which are inflammatory or non-inflammatory, which have an impact on innate and adaptive. So when I just mentioned and stopped the lecture at non-specificity, I am also trying to say that it is very specific for the two type of immune responses. They are not specific for a particular target cell. So type 1 and type 2 cytokine receptors which are responsible are hematopoietin, toll-like receptors, which we shall be talking when I do immune tolerance, tumor necrosis factor related receptors, and TGF beta receptors, and of course the chemokine receptors. So these were the classes or the structural classification which I had put the entire category into, but now I am going to put them under the category of specific receptors on which the cytokines are going to bind. These are the list of the functional groups of the cytokines, which I had said that I will give you the entire list later. So that means what are the cytokines in the immune response? For the immune response, innate immune response, I have already mentioned IL-1, IL-6, IL-12, TNF alpha, interferon alpha and beta, very important. For adaptive immune response, it is IL-2 and IL-4 which are most important because they are responsible for activation and differentiation. TGF beta, but this is because of immune suppression, and interferon gamma, this also is because of an enhanced viral infection. So, can I put them under pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory cytokines? Yes, I can actually categorize them into pro-inflammatory. Pro-inflammation doesn't mean that it causes inflammation. Pro-inflammation only means that the presence of these cytokines shows that the body is undergoing some inflammation and it is going to promote inflammation after the tissue injury. Anti-inflammation, that means if there is an anti-inflammatory response, then I will have the secretion of IL-4, IL-10, IL-13 and TGF beta. TGF beta, again mind you, is immunosuppressant. So IL-12, what does it do? IL-12, I told you, was responsible for innate response as well as cell-mediated response. That means it is going to act through macrophages and dendritic cells. So that means what is a Th1 type response? Th1 meaning T helper cell subset 1. That will always be interferon gamma. So why specificity of cytokines when we already have such a good interaction of non-specificity of cytokines and so many interactions, so many actions are taking place, the entire gamut of events of the body are looked after, then why do we want specificity? Why even are we looking for such things? It is very important to have specificity. If we don't, then we will never understand what is happening. We have to understand the receptors. Then only we understand that the cytokine will have a specific signal transduction. So that means when I spoke of the receptors, these are cell surface proteins which are expressed, and this depends on what kind of receptor is expressed. So the 5 major families which are there, like the cytokine having a structural resemblance to immunoglobulins, we have immunoglobulin superfamily as receptors. We have hematopoietin receptors, we have interferon receptors, TNF alpha, TNF receptor families, as well as chemokines. So that means the structural homology of the cytokine should go and bind to their respective structural homologous receptors. Very interesting. So when I say class 1 and class 2 majority of receptors, what do I understand? I understand that there will be a number of receptors and the same cell may express 2-3 different kinds of receptors. So what is my first receptor family? The immunoglobulin. It has 3, if you can see, there are 3 loops which are connected by the disulfide bridges, and these are also called as ligands because the cell surface has ligands or receptors on which the cytokine will come and bind. So which are the cytokines which are going to bind? IL-1, MCSF and C. Then class 1 cytokine receptor which is also called as hematopoietin receptor. When I say hematopoietin receptor, what is the structure? It has conserved sites for cysteines. That means what are the ligands which are going to bind? Please see, there are n number of cytokines as well as hormones as well as other molecules which can bind to the same cytokine receptors. That means this is multimeric. It can take in so many or it can recognize so many. So this ligand is not specific. This becomes non-specific, but still it has specificity because they have to understand or recognize the conserved cysteine groups, then only can they come and bind. What is a class 2 cytokine receptor? I will call it the interferon receptors. Here also it has 2 sites. If you go back, we have a double set of conserved cysteine groups. Here we have just one group, and here the cysteine residues are placed differently. it has specificity only for interferon, alpha, beta and gamma. That means there are 3 types of interferons. So, it is interferon specific as well as IL-10 can also bind to it. That is a homologous IL-10 to interferons, which is again both of them have a different type of reaction. What is my TNF alpha receptor show? That it has 1, 2, 3 and 4 dimerized sites. So, that means the extracellular domain has 4 sites which have the cysteine group, cysteine 1, 2 and 3, and this shows the ligands for TNF alpha and beta, CD40, nerve growth factor. So, that means there has to be similarity between hormones, growth factors, chemokines and cytokines. What is interesting is that a chemokine receptor almost behaves like a G protein receptor. What is a G protein receptor? That means it has an extracellular domain. It has an enzyme which is a transmembrane which activates the intracellular domains which are the G protein. The G protein is made up of 4 subunits which are towards the cytoplasm. So, they are cytoplasmic in nature. So, what do I see in these receptors? That all these receptors have an extracellular domain, a transmembrane domain as well as a cytoplasmic domain. So, IL-8 is specifically behaves like a chemokine receptors. MIP, that was the macrophagic inhibitory protein 1. Then we have various others which behave like the same. So, when I talk of IL-2 receptor subfamily, this has a common subunit which is intracellular. So, just go back, just remember this is the extracellular domain, this is the transmembrane domain and these are the intracellular domain. So, what do I see common in the IL-2 receptor? That all of them have one gamma subunit which is inside, which is of the same size. So, that means the recognition occurs and there is IL-2, IL-15, IL-7, interleukin 9 and IL-4 which come and they appear the same once they bind to these receptors. I can also categorize them in 2 things, like if I have this is an example of hematopoietin, colony stimulating factor, where I can show that the affinity also is important. That means it is not important for the ligand to recognize the cytokine or the hormone, but it is also important that the binding should have a high affinity or a low affinity. So, based on that we can clearly show that if the binding is like this is called a low affinity receptor. That means it cannot retain it for a long time. Or if I have a high affinity receptor, that means it can come and bind strongly. Please remember, these bindings are never covalent. They are always associated temporarily and most likely they are not even internalized into the cells. They just bind and activate a signal transduction which I will be talking about, and it just has the effect or the impact on the gene alteration. So, I am just revising once. We have type 1 cytokine receptor which is the hematopoietin receptor. I am now going to make it slightly more complicated for you. We have the extracellular domain consisting of dimers. I am looking at the intracellular domain. Similarly, in type 2, what am I looking at? We are looking at the receptors which are slightly different. We have the TNF alpha receptor family, we have the IL-1 receptor family, where this is the immunoglobulin family, if you remember, the 3 loops connected by the disulfide bonds, and we have the 7 or the transmembrane, actually it is a 7 subunit of in the transmembrane region. This generally forms the G proteins. So, what do I look at? I am looking at the receptors, I am not even looking at the cytokines. I am only looking at the cytokines who will come and bind to these receptors, and the intracellular domain is going to give us the answer to what is going to happen. I am using a big term, signal transduction. What does it mean? It means that I am going to have a system of release of certain chemicals which are going to give us the answer. What exactly is the cytokine doing? That means it is going to increase the number of molecules per activation. First, the ligand has to bind to the cytokine. That is the step 1. Once the binding occurs, it is going to activate or when I say activate, what is it going to happen? There is dimerization occurring, then there is phosphorylation occurring. So when I say dimerization, that means one unit divides and looks at and appears as two. When I say phosphorylation, that means there is going to be attachment of a phosphate group. When there is attachment of a phosphate group, it has to attach on one or the other amino acid. It will either attach to a tyrosine, or it will attach to a serine or a threonine. So that means I am activating a JAK. JAK is a Janus kinase enzyme. When I say phosphorylation, that means attachment of a phosphate group to the tyrosine. Then binding of the signal transducers, like this is a signal transducer, means just an information being passed, transducers and activators of transcription. So that means this is a JAK-STAT pathway which we are going to do. What am I talking about? I am talking about moving of the STAT or that activated transcriptor molecule. It moves, translocates means it moves from one position and goes and attaches to the DNA of the cell. That is how the transcription will occur, and the gene which is going to get activated or where it is going to go and bind will get expressed. That is how it alters the gene function. What do I understand by this? When I said signal transduction, I also said receptors. I can safely call it receptor signaling. So then that means, how do I explain? Ligand binds to one unit. That means if it is the alpha subunit, it will bind to alpha subunit. This binding causes the dimerization of what? Of the receptor. JAK gets activated, phosphorylation of tyrosine residues on the receptor, phosphorylation of JAK themselves, STATs moves, docks the receptors, phosphorylation of the STAT by JAK, dimerized STAT translocates to the nucleus, leads to gene expression. This I am going to explain in the cytokine. That means there is an alpha and beta, it comes and binds. This is the dimerization, this is the phosphorylation of the tyrosine residues, this is the STAT getting activated, this translocates, dimerizes again and goes and acts on the cell. I am sure you people have understood what exactly is signal transduction, which appears to be such a serious topic. Similarly, I am showing you another cartoon, whichever suits the students, it is the best how to understand. I have only kept on talking about the stimulation. What happens when there is an opposite effect? That means, is there a cytokine antagonist? Yes, they exist also, and they also exist in two forms. That means there can be a receptor antagonist, that means there is the receptor binding but no activation. Why? Because they are structurally similar but the activation does not occur. Or I can have a ligand binding to a cytokine, but that binding to the receptor is not correct. That shows that there is the recognition is there, but the binding is not correct. In either case, there is going to be no response. So this is a well-known example is IL-1. In many cases, the antagonists can be a soluble receptor. When I say soluble receptor, that means this receptor will get dissolved on binding or the domain will get lost. So IL-2, IL-4, interferon gamma and alpha are similar. This we can see in the number of TNF alpha binding proteins or IL-1 binding protein, and the viruses are very intelligent. They use it to their advantage, and this is how they dissolve the soluble receptors, and the body does not understand that the infection has occurred and there is no signal transduction occurring, so the body does not try to save itself. So that means, what am I trying to show? That viruses are smarter than us. They mimic the cytokines and they mimic the cytokine receptors. And what are these viruses? The smallpox, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, all these viruses are very important. Now, when I talk of the adaptive immunity, please remember I am just revising the T lymphocytes which I have done with you all, which are T1, Th1, Th2 and Th17. Th17 is very important, and this has been introduced very recently, that the IL-17 and IL-22, which shows a T helper 17 kind of response, are basically recruiting neutrophils to do their work. So what we feel that neutrophils and monocytes were never recruited. It was the macrophages which were being recruited. or the eosinophils which were being recruited for Th2 cells. So this was an interesting finding which we wanted to explain. So Th1 versus Th2, what do I understand? That Th helper cells secrete a variety of cytokines, and it shows impact on both the subsets. The environment where the cytokine is being secreted is the one which determines which subset is going to overtake the others. So that means if there is IL-4, it can actually activate the Th2 response. So Th1 cell function, we have already revised this. Th2 cell function, we have already revised it. Th17 is what I wanted you people to understand, that when a naive cell gets activated, it can actually activate the dendritic cells. It can actually proliferate show the proliferation and differentiation. This IL-17, when it is interleukin 17, when it's secreted, it actually acts on the leukocytes and the tissue cells. The tissue cells are the ones which are responsible for secreting colony stimulating factors, some chemokines. They are important because they will migrate the cells which are going to be the ones to fight the infection. That means it recruits the macrophages as well as it recruits certain neutrophils. Neutrophils are the ones which are being recruited by the Th17 lymphocytes. So once I have a neutrophil response, what I get to see is that a new kind of immune response has been generated, which is neither pro-inflammatory nor anti-inflammatory, but it is very important. So if I look at the entire cartoon and see that a T naive cells, Th0 is just the depiction of a naive cell. The naive cell gets activated by the antigen presenting cells, because please remember, T cells will never get activated by seeing the antibody. They only recognize the antibody if they have been presented by the antigen, or the antibody and the antigen in a complex state, which are given on the surface of the B cell, or they are presented by the antigen presenting cells. So what does the Th naive cell differentiate into? Th1, Th2, Th3, which is the T regulatory, and Th17. So are there transcription factors also involved to this? What are transcription factors? When the gene expression occurs and it is secreted, it is called as the transcription factor. So Th1 and Th2 have different transcription factors. That means if T-bet is expressed, we know it is a Th1 response. If GATA3 is expressed, we know it is a Th2 response. For Th2, T-bet becomes a suppressor. Similarly, interferon gamma regulates the expression of T-bet. So that means these are all interlinked processes, and the body is always under the regulation of innate or adaptive immunity. So this is also a summarizing the entire receptor families. What are the characteristics? What are the members of the family? What is the common activity it does? And what are the characteristics of the cytokine? Because it is important to remember, the cytokine, because of its homology, will go and bind to similar receptors. So from Th1 to 3 cytokines, what do I understand? If it is IL-2 and interferon gamma, I understand that it is an innate response. If it is 4, 5 and 13, I know it is a Th2 response. If it is Th3, that means T regulatory response. It is IL-10 and TGF beta. That means if these two are there, that means there is something called as regulation of the T regulatory cells which are coming. T regulatory cells are important in immune tolerance, which is going to be my topic in one of the next lections. And Th17 is when IL-17 is enhanced. So IL-17 is the sole cytokine which is going to tell us that it is a T helper 17 response. So this shows how the blood cells are impacted, and like I said, there are immunosuppressive cytokines which I have already explained to you. So what is the summary of cytokines, chemokines and growth factors, which I have repeatedly said that these receptors are common to them. So all these three are getting recognized by them. So what do? They actually direct the cytokines to the receptors, they differentiate, they mature, they activate. That means entire immune response is going to be dependent on them. They also play a very important role in regulating the cells. That means innate immunity, adaptive immunity, as well as regulation of the immunity. That means it is very interesting. If I have too much cytokines, then what happens? We have always worked in a situation when I have said the half-life is small, that means the time in the blood it is less. I have also said that the cytokine itself is responsible for upregulation or downregulation. Then what happens if there is excessive amount of cytokines being secreted? Can we think of an answer? No, but it is very obvious. Excess of salt is also toxic to the body. So if there is excess of cytokines being secreted, automatically the pathology of the body will be impacted. That means if I have more inflammatory cytokines being secreted, they are going to cause inflammation in the system. If I have too many anti-inflammatory cytokines in the body, they are going to ensure that there is no inflammation. But what happens? It will always lead to further immune suppression, which is going to cause more infection, and it is going to make the body open to opportunistic infections. That means, what do? Small amount of cytokine being secreted, it can work as a therapy. So that means if I have a cancer patient, I want to give a therapy, I want to give it an immune therapy. What do? I go and infuse a lot of cytokines. Is it going to help? No. If I put too many cytokines into a system, it is going to be only causing more and more infection. So what is important is the cytokines, nature has devised them to be given in small quantities intermittently. So my therapy should also be designed using the knowledge given by nature so that the impact is therapeutic in nature rather than pathological. Now, what have I understood? I have also understood one more thing, that viruses are mimicking the cytokines. So when they mimic the cytokines, they are taking advantage of the information and they are allowing the body to understand that there is no infection. So what do I need to do? To make a good therapy, I need to mimic the viruses. What virus does, we should do. So that means we can have a viral version of the cytokine and help the patient to recover. Can I have a inhibition of the cytokines? Yes, I can have inhibitory cytokines which are going to cause immune suppression. And can I use chemokines as co-receptors? Yes, I can use chemokines as receptors to enhance the entry into the cell. So this way we can have a complete gamut of therapy as well as the understanding of nature as well as the understanding of how cytokines work. What are the books for references? QB Immunology, it is very good. Immunology by Riot is another very good book to be referred. Cellular and Molecular Immunology by Abbas and Littman, and Janeway's Immunobiology by Murphy and Travers is a good book to refer. So with the references, I would like to thank you for today's lecture.
On that note, I would like to thank ma'am for this very enriching discussion, and I would like to thank you, dear friends, for watching our show. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.